Hello, this is Patrick at 1CNC West, and what we're going to do in this training video is continue to apply toolpath to our part geometry. In this video, why don't we take a look at creating this chamfer right here. Now remember, this hole has a diameter of 750 thousandths, so I think that's a little bit too small to use a boring bar or a boring operation to machine the chamfer. So why don't we create a chamfer tool and use a drill operation to create the chamfer. Alright, so first of all, we can head over here to the left and go into our lathe toolpaths just like we did before, and we can select our drill tap cycle. Now an alternative would be to come over here to the NC Manager, then simply right hand click, then select duplicate operation. This is going to create a duplicate of the drilling operation. Now we know we can rename this simply by just double clicking, and then within the NC Processing dialog box we can type in whatever we'd like. In fact, I'm going to type in 1-inch diameter chamfer tool. That looks good, so I'll click OK to that. Now with this drilling operation renamed, we can now change some of the parameters. I should also point out that by duplicating this drill operation, we didn't have to reselect any geometry. So this can be a much faster approach when creating similar toolpaths. Alright, so let's edit this. We can edit the operation by right-hand mouse clicking and select Edit Operation. Now the first thing we'll need to do is to create our brand new tool. Remember, you can access the tool library by left-clicking on the tool graphic, or you can left-click on Tool Changer. I'm going to left-click on Tool Changer. Within the Tool Changer dialog box, we have two tabs. We don't need to look at the Recent tab. From previous videos, you already know that the Recent tab contains the current tools that have been used as well as favorited tools. Let's click on Library, and from there we want to make sure we're inside the drill category. Now I want to create a brand new tool, so I'm going to select Enable Edit Tools, and this time instead of cloning a tool, instead of cloning an existing tool, I'm going to click the New button. Alright, so down here at the very bottom, this is going to be our brand new tool. Now the first column is whether I want to add this tool to our favorite list. I'm going to leave that set to yes. The second column is to give the tool a name. So I'm going to type in 1-inch chamfer. The tool number, this is the default turret position. You can enter a value here if you'd like, or you can leave it at the default of 0. This turret position or tool number can always be changed within the machining operations. The library number, that's just an internal library number. In other words, we can assign this tool as tool library number 2, and then later on if we want to do a search for that, we definitely could. I'm going to leave this set to 2. Now the next column is the diameter column. I'm going to change this from 4 to 1 inch. That looks good. For included angle, since this is going to be a chamfer tool, I want to change the included angle to 90 for 90 degrees. I'm going to leave the flutes set to 3 on this, and for the chip load per flute, I'm going to change this to 0.019. Very good. Now for the flute length, I'm going to type in 1 for that, and for the actual tool length, the overall tool length, I'm going to make that 2 inches. As far as the holder goes, I'm going to use the number 1 drill holder. To access the tool holder library, simply left click here, and from there you can create a brand new tool holder or you can select a previously defined holder. I'm going to use the number 1 drill holder. That looks good. Let's click OK to that, and with this selected we can now click OK. Very good. So here's the graphic of the chamfer tool, and down here, here's all the technical or relevant information for that tool. Let's put this tool in turret position number 4. Don't need to worry about the tool offset, as 1CNC is going to use the same value as tool station number. If you want to change it, just click and type in whatever value you want. Don't need to worry about coolant work offset, as the post-processor defaults will take care of that. For feed rate, I'm going to make sure again I'm using inches per minute. And for this, I'm going to reduce this down to 15 inches a minute. I'm going to leave the RPM at 2500. Make sure we have RPM selected. And I don't need to override the spindle direction, so I can leave that unchecked. As far as the name goes, we've already named the machining operation to 1-inch diameter chamfer tool, so I'm going to leave that alone, and I don't need to add notes which would appear inside of the CNC program, so I can leave this option alone. Let's click Next on that. Don't need to worry about the clearance style. Remember, the clearance style is how the tool is going to move away from the part geometry after the machining operation. Typically, 95% of the time, you'll never need to change that. It's only when you're performing more complicated toolpath that you might want to change the way the tool exits or moves away from the part geometry. Let's click Next on that. For this, I'm just going to be using a standard type of drilling operation. In other words, I want the chamfer tool to go in and then pull out. If you want, you could add a dwell value. This is in seconds, so if I type in 1, that's going to dwell at the very bottom of the chamfer for 1 second. I don't think we need that, so I'm going to put this back to 0. The Z clearance at 200 thousandths is fine. The entry and overcut amount, we can leave these values alone as we can modify that down here. Now Z start, this is where the chamfer tool is going to start feeding. Z end is very important, and here's an easy way to get the exact size chamfer that you want. Whenever you're using a 90-degree included angle chamfer tool, you can use this technique. If you type in the radius of the hole, remember our hole is 750 thousandths in diameter, correct? So if I type in minus 375 thousandths, that value will not give us a chamfer, but it will move the chamfer tool all the way in to the very side of the chamfer tool, becomes tangent to the edge of the hole. Again, it won't give us a chamfer, but it's just barely going to kiss the edge of the hole that's been drilled. Now, if I want to add a chamfer amount, all we have to do is add that to this. Now, because it's a negative value, you're going to want to type in a minus here. And if we want a 50 thousandths chamfer, we just type in minus 0.05. Now, if you hit the equal sign on the keyboard, one CNC will add those two together while retaining that minus sign. So if we were going to cut using a 90-degree included angle chamfer tool at minus 425 thousandths on a 3/4 inch diameter hole, that's going to give us a 50 thousandths chamfer. All right, I think that looks good. Let's click Finish and let one CNC generate the toolpath. Very good, and we can see the machining operation has been added here. Let's go ahead and end the video by simulating our toolpath. I'm going to right-hand mouse click on the toolpath group and select Simulate Rest. From here, we're going to define our stock. I'm going to be using this option called Round Bar. It should be noted that you can also use a solid model that you may have created previously for the stock, but for this, let's just keep it simple and use Round Bar. For the stock diameter, I already have 6.5 inches. I'm going to say the very beginning of the stocks at Z 50 thousandths and the very end of the stocks at minus 5 inches. Let's click OK and let one CNC simulate the toolpath. Now, instead of using random colors for each tool, you can actually make the colors more consistent by coming down to the lower right-hand corner and selecting this button. This button in the lower right-hand corner gives you the ability to change the way the tools will be displayed. In other words, their color. I'm going to change this to aluminum, and then I'm going to click Restart. Now, if I speed up the toolpath simulation, you'll notice that the tools now have a very similar color. There's our drilling operation, and there's our chamfer operation. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.